Welcome to Mac Geek Gab, episode 939, another palindrome for Monday, August 1st, 2022. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where the goal is to learn at least 5 new things. We accomplish that goal by taking your questions that you send to feedback at macgeekgab.com, along with your tips, your cool stuff found, our tips, our cool stuff found, sometimes even our questions, and we put it all together into an agenda, and hopefully every week we come together, we have some fun, and we learn something. Here, enjoying my throat coat tea for whatever I've got going on with me in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here, back from Chicago, and now in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun.
How are we today, Mr. John F. Braun?
Good. The travel was a lot less traumatic than I thought.
So. I am glad to hear that. That's amazing, man. That's good. And MacStock, so yeah, you were able to attend MacStock for the first time since 2019. How was it getting to see everybody? How was because the best part about MacStock obviously is the community aspect of it. How was that?
Oh, there was a lot of community.
Great, that's the key. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, unfortunately, the sessions were kind of light because people, for various reasons, had to pull out.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's, some of it's the presentations. There was still a lot of good stuff.
That's good.
And the other part, as you pointed out, is the community, and there was plenty of that.
That's good. I mean, the whole concept of MacStock started with just a community gathering, right? Barry Falk, our premium list, Mac Geek Gab premium listener number 1, decided after a few years of not having Macworld Expo that he wanted to get a bunch of his favorite podcasters and favorite people together. So he hosted a barbecue at his house, or a cookout, a catered event at his house is what it turned out to be. It was actually a pretty big deal. And I give a lot of kudos to Barry and his wife for pulling it off. But that's when Mike said, well, wait a minute, if all these people are going to be in town, we should throw a conference during the day. And MacStock was born. So yeah, the community is always at the core of it. I like it. It's good. All right. Let's just get to some of this stuff. Phil I have no particular order today. I'm in a brain fog today, so I have no idea what I've got, if I've got the thing or, just another thing, but I've got something. We'll see how we do. Phil has a tale of warning, a PSA, if you will, to share. He says, gentlemen, I got caught. So did my brother. And I'm sure there are others. Without yet knowing what Phil is about to share, folks, I can tell you I was one of these people one day. And I can't believe we didn't share this on the show. He says, it turns out that when you migrate to a new iPhone using the direct transfer or backup and restore procedures, Google Authenticator does not move its entries with it to the new phone. A separate export and import is required. That takes the presence of mind to be thinking about Google Authenticator when doing your migration. For most of us, we think about the Authenticator app the next time we need it, which is almost always after you've wiped and sold your old phone. In my brother's case, he was using it as two-factor authentication for CrashPlan, and when there was no fallback for authenticating, he had to contact support and have them reset his account. You could argue that all of this improves security, but the inconvenience/security ratio is fairly high. And that leads to a bigger question. Are Authenticator apps interchangeable, and can we do something to solve this? And the answer is yes. As I said, I got caught by this too, John. Years ago, I was using Google Authenticator because that's what it said to use, or whatever I was using said to use, probably Google. And then it was like, wait, all my entries are gone. It was, weeks later that I noticed this. And that's when I moved all of my two-factor authentication into 1Password. Now, it starts becoming less two-factor and two-entry when the password and the one-time code, if you will, are not only stored on the same device, but stored in the same piece of software. However, that comes, I always say we choose our point on the continuum between ultimate security and ultimate convenience, right? And in this case, trending a little bit more towards convenience is what works, certainly for me and probably for a lot of us. So yeah, I moved everything into 1Password so that it has the benefit of, yes, carrying to your new devices with you, but also being available on all your devices. So I don't need to go to Google Authenticator when I'm logging in on my Mac. It just has it right there. Again, not two-factor anymore, but a little bit better in terms of actually being able to get into my stuff. So I don't know. What do you do? Have you ever gotten caught by this, John?
No.
Okay. And how do you solve this problem? Do you use Google Authenticator? Do you use something else? Okay.
I use a LastPass.
Okay. And LastPass syncs all of that stuff, all the two-factor stuff with all your devices and all that. Yeah.
I'm not using it for two-factor, though they have reminded me that I could.
So where are you storing your two-factor authentication stuff if you're not using Google Authenticator?
Well, I'm not using two-factor authentication. So
on anything?
I'm using Apple's, but I'm not using Google's or LastPass's.
Yeah, but what happens when you have to log into a website that requires you to use two-factor authentication? Like, what do you use then? I mean, there's some sites that, forget about Apple or Google. Like, there's many sites out there that use Google Authenticator as their method of providing you with, two-factor authentication. So what do you do for those websites that require the one-time code? You log in, username, password, and then it comes back and says, okay, now enter your one-time code. How do you do that?
They either text me or email me. And
okay.
Apple is smart enough to usually pick that up, and it just populates it.
Fascinating. Of course, there's many that will do the texting thing, and yes, the way Safari does that is awesome. I'm just shocked you don't have like any banks or anything that require you to use Google Authenticator. Which again,
Nope.
You don't have to use Google Authenticator. You can use 1Password, maybe LastPass. I'm assuming yes, but I don't know. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, one of my banks has a checkbox for using a token.
Yeah.
Which is a hardware device that
sure,
gives you a different number every minute or something like that. But
interesting. I'm just shocked that you've gotten this far without needing that. Huh.
Yeah, so am I.
Huh. I'm assuming LastPass has this functionality in it. In fact, I seem to remember it from when I was using it. But wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just flabbergasted that, like, Slack, you must have two-factor authentication enabled for Slack. I thought we forced that on our Mac Observer and Mac Geek Gab channels, but maybe not. Huh.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I have one bank that requires me for doing wire transfers to use a token, and now I can use an app, but it is a separate app to do it. It's not like scan the QR code with 1Password. Well, since you haven't been through it, it's actually pretty cool. What 1Password does is the way that you add something to I'll call it your two-factor authenticator app, so that we're not saying Google or 1Password or anything, is it shows you a QR code on the screen, and then you need to scan that typically with your phone. But if you're doing it on your Mac, at least 1Password lets you drag a little screen capture window over the QR code, and it does it right there. It's actually pretty cool. So, yeah. Well, if you ever find yourself, John, or anybody out there who isn't yet in this scenario, if you ever find yourself needing to use 2FA, remember that your password manager likely can do it, including Apple's. So, yeah. All right. You want to take us to Larry?
Sure.
Sweet.
All right. Kind of a two-parter here. I'm not sure if these are related, but maybe they are. So Larry says, okay, so I've been dealing with this for many years and finally decided to write. I have tried everything to fix my sync problems with my Apple TV and my Samsung TV. I have an Onkyo receiver that the Apple TV goes through. It is an older receiver, I will admit. When I watch Apple TV, the mouths are out of sync with the sound. It's annoying. I just figured it is par for the course with an older receiver. However, I finally decided to write and see if we knew anything that could help. Yes, I have updated. There was just an update. That didn't fix it. I restarted the Apple TV. I have done the calibration numerous times. Nothing. Any ideas? Or do I just need to get a new receiver? Getting new toys is good. So maybe that'll work. But then he followed up, and I think this solved the problem or a problem. I already figured out what kind of troubleshooting steps you might take me through. I checked other applications on the Apple TV, and they seemed to be better. So I deleted HBO Max, which was the one I was having problems with, and then I reinstalled it, and it does seem to be a little bit better. So I guess my problem is resolved.
Maybe.
As a general tip, though, I have found that when apps act up, whether they be on the Mac or on iOS, sometimes you got to delete it and reinstall it, and then the problems go away. Something gets corrupted somewhere.
Yeah, I think his issue. So he describes that he's got his Apple TV connected to his Onkyo receiver, and then that is connected to the TV. And so what that tells me is his receiver, and I hate that we still use this term receiver because it might not even have an FM receiver in it, right? But it's what we use. It's fine. It tells me that his receiver, among other things, is also an HDMI switch box, right? So his Apple TV isn't plugging directly into his TV. It's plugging into a switch box, which also happens to be part of his receiver. And then part of the signal is going to the sound processor and amplifier. And the other part of the signal, the video part of the signal, is going up to his TV. And so what you're dealing with here is a scenario where the TV is processing the video signal and displaying it at a different time than the receiver's signal processor for sound and amplifier are processing that audio signal and playing it. And so you're out of sync. And this is super common. So oftentimes you will have options in your TV to adjust the sync. Other times you will have options in your receiver to adjust the sync. I know my soundbar, my Sonos soundbars have the options to do this. And then there's even a way using the Apple TV and your phone to have it adjust the sync right in there. It actually plays some sounds at the same time that it's showing images on the screen, and your phone calculates what needs to happen, and then your Apple TV can do it, and you can find that in settings. That only works for some apps. So if you can do it with your TV and or your sound device, that's going to be the best way to go. And I even have this like I don't want to say it's more or less common. Another common way of connecting your Apple TV to your entertainment center is to connect the Apple TV to your actual TV and then have an HDMI cable or an optical cable go from there, just carrying the audio signal. It would be called HDMI ARC, ARC, or eARC, EARC, to carry just the audio signal, or the optical cable would carry the audio signal to whatever your sound device is, a receiver, a sound bar, whatever that could be. And I've even seen it with that. And you just have to make some adjustments so that the time it takes to process the audio is the same as the time it takes to process the video, and you see things in sync. So there's likely 3 or 4 places that Larry could go and do this. Now, the fact that deleting and reinstalling the apps fixed this, I guess, that wouldn't have been my first thought. But hey, if it ain't broke, man, don't fix it. Right? So have you ever had sync problems with your stuff, John, or yours just kind of works?
I had decoding issues, and then you suggested something which I think you just described. But rather than using my receiver as the HDMI switch, you were like, well, why not use the TV? And the good news is that my TV, my current TV, though it had a mishap, and I have to get another one.
Uh-oh.
But they're cheap. But this LG has 3 HDMI ports, and then I do the, Toslink optical to the receiver.
Yep.
And that was a better path. So if you're having sync issues, maybe using another, maybe consider using your TV instead of your receiver as the switch.
A TV as the switch box has been the least headache-prone method I've found in all of the different ways I've done this, and I've done them all. I've had a receiver that had a switch box in it. I've used an external switch box, and then now I use my TV, and the TV is a better way to go because it's just one less thing. Like the TV's switch box is built to work with that TV, and that makes a difference. And then if you're just going, like you said, optical or eARC over HDMI out to your whatever your sound device is, it often is like I said, less headache prone. So
yeah. The only challenge here is that my current TV has 3 HDMI ports. That's unusual based on the survey of similar models. Like I said, I have to replace it for various reasons.
Did your TV break, John?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, man. That sucks.
Yeah, electronics don't last.
Put them on a UPS
these days. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's just,
yeah.
Then again, 43 inches what works for me.
Yeah,
and they're like $300.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one I bought back in the day, Samsung, I think it was $1,700.
Oh yeah. I like the 65-inch, 4K OLED screen that I have now has a lower retail price than my 42-inch plasma, my first HD screen did, like by half. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So you're gonna be fine. But maybe you can go OLED or maybe notch it up to, I don't know, go 50 inches. Enjoy. Spoil yourself. I mean, I know you've got a short viewing angle or short viewing.
Well, the thing is, I got a stand, and you have to be careful how wide the stand is. Because actually, the last time I bought one, I bought a slightly larger one, and it was too wide.
Oh, too wide for your stand? Yeah. I mean, you can always...
the little feet there. Yeah. I probably could have rigged something, but...
Yeah, you could put a piece of plywood across the thing to make it wider.
No.
Well, I mean, I'm starting. Whenever I have to solve these problems, I always start like, okay, what would the super low cost, get it done solution be? And then it's like, okay, how can I step up from there? But you could also go and do a Visa mount, right, and put it on your wall.
Put it on the wall.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Or they do sell replacement stands that connect to the Visa mount, like not for the wall, but for the floor. So there's all kinds of options. But you were saying something though. I brought us down a tangent here. You were saying that your TV has 3 HDMI inputs. The one you were needing to replace. What were you saying that other TVs you're finding don't have that many?
Correct.
Really? That seems weird.
Like, for example, this one is discontinued, so I can't get it because my preference would have been to just buy the same model.
Sure.
But its replacement only has 2 HDMI ports.
Check larger sizes. You might find that, like, when you get into the 50-inch or larger realm, that you're back to 4 HDMI ports, because every TV that I've looked at has 4 these days, but our living room has a longer throw, so we're looking at 50-inch and 55-inch, 60, 65-inch and up. So so it might be time to spoil yourself anyway. There you go. All right, let's see if we can help Tony here. He says, I have a thing with contacts that Apple support couldn't help me figure out. I'm getting bunches of contacts mysteriously added to my contacts app that I did not add. I'd like to stop them from being added and globally purge the ones that have been added to date. And he sent some screenshots where he showed a few contacts, one, multiples for the same person in different cases. And one had like all his notes, and the other one just had like maybe an email address and, a LinkedIn profile or something else. And so I've seen this before. I fought this battle before on my own stuff. And what you want to do in contacts is go to the view menu and make sure you are seeing the groups. It's going to add a third column to the left of your contacts. And that's going to show you where the sources for all of your contacts. It's not just going to show you the groups, but it's going to show you headers for iCloud. You might have one for LinkedIn. You might have one for Google. And those things are going to be the things that bring them in. Now, you can go into contacts and select multiple contacts and merge them if you have two people that are the same. You would go to, I think you highlight the multiple cards and you go to the card menu and choose merge selected cards. And that way it would know, okay, this John F. Braun in my iCloud is the same as John F. Braun in my LinkedIn. And now you've got all that data together. So that would be one way of doing it. The other way would be to not link extra contact sources into your contacts. And you do that by going into contacts preferences, accounts, and go in here and uncheck the enable this account box in order to figure out, where you are. Or uncheck the enable this account box. I told you I was in a fog today, folks. You had warning, but that would turn it off. And then you're done. Like if you see LinkedIn in there or Google, if that's where they're coming from, then just turn that off and you're done. If you do choose to have multiple accounts, I have found contacts. It lets you set in the preferences. It lets you set a default account, right? So that when you go and just say new contact, that's what it adds it to, unless you change something. I have watched that default account change multiple times. It has a mind of its own. So if you're going to have multiple accounts in there, set your calendar once a week to go in and make sure that it is adding to the right account. So, yeah. Also in our chat, Kiwi Graham, our chat at macgeekgab.com/Discord, Kiwi Graham says, check on your iPhone to see which apps have been given access to your contacts because something else might be populating this. And so go to settings on iOS, privacy, contacts, and see what that says for you because that might give you a clue if you don't have any separate accounts. Oh, I like this. This is good. This is what I love about doing this show is I learn stuff too. That's the whole point. Thoughts on any of this, John?
The way I solve the problem is the only account that I use to store contacts is my iCloud. So
yeah, right.
But I'm still, as you pointed out, but in the past, internet accounts would let you link to other sources. And I'm still trying to clean out all that cruft.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I did, one time merge and I got rid of most of the duplicates. It just mushed them all together. So
yeah. But yeah, I like that to see if iOS, see if any iPhone apps are, pushing things into your contacts. That's I like that. Because even if you only use iCloud, which is what I've done too, I finally had to standardize and be like, okay, I can't deal with this multiple contacts thing. I had to, when I was teaching that class at the university, I was connected to their, LDAP server or whatever, and I had access to all of the contacts for every student and teacher, and it was super handy when I needed to send emails out to people, but it kept defaulting to that. And it was like, no, if I add a new contact, I do not want it on my UNH account that's going to go away someday. I want it in my iCloud account that hopefully I get to control when that goes away. It's not managed. Well, it is managed by Apple, but you know what I mean. Anyway, shall we move on? Is this one? Mm-hmm. Have we beat this one into submission? Okay, great. David in Texas says, I have a question about the best way to transfer files to my new Mac. I'm getting an M1 Air, or maybe an M2 Air, to replace my 2015 MacBook Pro. And the main issue has to do with setting up the new Mac when I get it, whichever model that turns out to be. Over the years, I've transferred files from one iBook to our MacBook to another, upgraded a hard drive on a MacBook, switched to a current, yada, yada, yada. Once Migration Assistant became a thing, I've relied on that to move files over, and it's always done a great job. Plus, along the way, of course, I've upgraded the OS on those machines multiple times. I have no complaints about the data transfer process on any of those occasions, but I do understand the buildup of cruft has likely been ongoing, and I'd like to start my next machine with as clean a slate as possible. So, is it still your recommendation to sometimes not rely on Migration Assistant and to instead manually download apps again and otherwise transfer files directly? If that's still a good idea, what's the best way to bring over data in Mac programs like Music and Photos and Contacts so that they maintain their current formats? I also back up an iPhone to this laptop and not to iCloud, so I'd like to ensure that I don't lose that functionality as well. So, yeah, I think personally, I think it is a good idea every few years, maybe every 5 years, maybe more than a few years, to let the cruft sit and reinstall things from scratch. With all the syncing that happens these days, it's not as bad as it used to be to start fresh. You mentioned a few apps. I'll start with the last one since we just talked about contacts. If you're syncing your contacts to iCloud, well, then you don't need to do anything other than log your new Mac into iCloud, right, John? I mean, like that, that'll bring in calendars and contacts and perhaps your mail, perhaps not. It might even bring your photos in if you've got everything in iCloud photo library. Music, potentially, yes. For photos and music, if you want to just copy the libraries over, you can do that. Just copy them from your home photos and home pictures or home music folders on your old one. Copy that to the new one, and then I think it's the Option key, right, John? When you launch the Photos app or launch the Music app, I think it's the Option key that lets you choose a library to connect it to, and then right, is that right? And then you're good to go. So a lot of this stuff is pretty easy these days. That Option key trick might be the most important one for you. But yeah, with all the syncing and IMAP for email and all of that, I mean, you want to make sure Apple's apps, Contacts and Mail specifically, do a good job of calendars as well, of delineating things that are stored in iCloud or somewhere in the cloud versus on my Mac. And if you see things in the on my Mac section that you want to keep, then you need to manually copy those over. But otherwise, the rest will just sync from the cloud, or at least it should. So I don't know. What do you think, John?
I'm a Migration Assistant person. So,
yeah, same. But do you ever, once every half a decade or so? No, you just let Migration Assistant do it and live with the consequences. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it does have, now I'm looking here, I don't know what version this is, but I'm looking at a screenshot from Migration Assistant, and it does give you some level of granularity. What I'm looking at now, it shows applications, there's a checkbox there, and then it shows the home folder of the person, and then it has a little expand.
Yep.
So I'm thinking that may be another way to migrate photos and stuff like that. But I can't open the triangle because it's a screenshot.
Because it's a screenshot, yeah. I guess I would worry, what else is it bringing over? Is it going to bring over all of the system preferences stuff that is exactly what listener David might want to avoid? So that's the question. I don't know the answer to it, obviously. But
yeah, well, there is a checkbox next to something titled System and Network. So he may want to uncheck that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the worst that happens is you do a granularly controlled Migration Assistant and then realize, oh, this brought over too much cruft. Wipe the machine, start from scratch, and do it differently. Either be more granular about it with Migration Assistant or do your nuke and pave and then just manually copy things over. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But my advice, before any migration that I do, I make sure I have not one, but 2 backups. Maybe I should have 3. But I make sure Time Machine is updated to the latest, and then I do a clone.
Yeah.
Just in case things go bad.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. We've got one comment floating over on YouTube from Brad Mac Pro saying that Migration Assistant from Intel to Apple Silicon is not going to work. My experience has been different with that. I haven't had issues migrating from Intel to Apple Silicon. That's worked fine for me. And it's been over a year since I've done it. Like, it worked fine in the beginnings of Apple Silicon Macs. So, but I share that feedback because if he's saying it, it means he's encountered a problem or he's encountered someone with a problem. And so, your point about backups, John, is key. So, yeah. But you've also, you said you make 2 backups. You still have your old Mac as a backup too, right? Migration Assistant, in theory, isn't going to be, copying that over.
Right.
So, so.
Right. Dave, I think I heard you say feedback at MacGeekGab.com.
I said it in the beginning of the show, feedback at MacGeekGab.com. That's where you send that stuff in. That's right. Yeah. Kiwi Graham in Discord comments that Photos app on the Mac remembers the last Photos library that was opened. So instead of doing the option click when opening Photos, you can just navigate to where your Photos library is stored and double click it. That will open Photos, and then subsequent launches of Photos will point to that library as well. And he also points out that he has migrated multiple clients from Intel to M1 with no problems. So whatever Brad Mac Pro experienced is unfortunate and hopefully rare. That's the idea anyway. All right. Are we moving on, John?
Sure.
All right, cool. You want to take us to listener David?
David.
A different David.
Yeah. This is a good question. I believe you covered this before, but I'm looking for a way to travel with the least amount of dongles, cables, etc. I have a MacBook Air, an iPad, Apple Watch, and iPhone. Do you have a preferred solution? You're going to have to do this on a case-by-case basis. Unless all your peripherals are USB-C, but I highly doubt that.
Sure.
So you'll need some sort of dongle or dock or whatever you want to call it. So, make a summary of all the things that you have and all the connectors. For example, I just traveled and Anker had provided a couple of docks to both me and you, I think. And the one that I brought with me was exactly what I needed, is that it had an Ethernet port in case there was an Ethernet port to plug into versus Wi-Fi. And this hotel actually did have an Ethernet cable, Dave. I don't know if it was live, but
probably not. Yeah.
But yeah, I brought an Anker one that had Ethernet port and 2 USB-A ports.
So you're talking about a dongle that connects to your computer to give your computer connectivity to your devices or to the devices in the hotel, yeah?
Yes.
Great. So I found the Anker 543 USB-C hub, which I think is probably the current version of what you're talking about here, and I'll put that in the show notes just to get us there. So because it's a USB-C hub, it's got some USB-C ports on it. Actually, this one doesn't have any USB-A ports, or maybe it does. Oh, no, it does. Sorry. Yeah, actually, this one's great. It's got power delivery input, power delivery output to your computer, a USB-C data port, 2 USB-A ports, HDMI, and Ethernet. So, yeah, that would be a good one. I assume that's similar to what the one you have, yeah?
Yeah, and they have they have a more button, but I don't want to fiddle with the web page while we're discussing things, because that's just rude. Here's the one thing I found on my travels, Dave, though. USB-A. Everybody offered any place where I had the potential to charge, the only thing that was available was USB-A. So that
Sounds
was either
about
on the
right.
plane, which is nice. The planes that I were on actually also had a 120 volt, which that's handy.
Yep.
And then the airports have charging stations, and the hotel had charging stations, but they're all USB-A. So that's why that was important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense because USB-C could be a power delivery scenario, and you don't want, like, that's not going to work for the masses, right? So USB-A, simple, 5 volts, everything just works. You have your USB-A cable to whatever you need to charge. It's not going to charge your laptop. Whereas if you had a USB-C cable that was only 5 volts or USB-C port that you could plug your laptop in, you wouldn't get enough juice out of it, right? So I think it's smart that they stay with USB-A for, for sort of the ubiquitous power ports that are in hotel rooms and airplanes and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, the other annoyance is that the phone still has Lightning. So
Yeah, so bring an A to Lightning cable and you're good to go, right? I also highly recommend some, and we talked about it on the show, I don't know, about 6 months ago, put some A to C adapters in your travel case. You can buy them cheap on Amazon. And that way, if you find yourself in a scenario where all you have is, your pile of USB-C cables and a USB-A port, you're like, oh, good to go. Put them in, done. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, unfortunately, I didn't pack a USB-A to Lightning cable. I thought I had.
Sure.
So as a backup, I brought a battery pack.
Okay.
And then what came up, a little tangent here, but when I was at the airport, I noticed the sign of all the things that you're not allowed to bring on the plane. And they had a battery. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, everything has batteries, I mean, my computer, so you did a little research. Thank you very much. There is a limit.
Yes.
And you eventually did the conversion, but I think it's 20,000 milliamp hours?
Yeah, if you run the TSA, you are right. There's the My TSA app, and they have in it, there's a section called Can I Bring? And you can type in whatever you want, and it will tell you. And when I typed in battery, I scrolled down to lithium batteries, and it says in your carry-on bag, lithium batteries with a 100 watt hours or less are allowed. And we did the math before the show, and that means 20,000 milliamp hours. So most of your charging batteries are going to be fine. Lithium batteries that are installed in a device are fine as well. It's the loose lithium batteries that start to get to be an issue. But yeah, and as long as it's less than 20,000 and in your carry-on, you're good to go. So, but yeah, get that My TSA app. That's a great, handy little resource. I think almost every trip I do, especially with other people, somebody always asks me like, hey, like when you did, you're like, oh, you can't bring a battery. I'm like, I don't know, hang on, let's go. And the nice part about it is if you've got the app there and there is an agent that says, no, your 10,000 milliamp hour battery is no good, you can pull out the app and be like, okay, hey, look, I checked this before I left. Here we go. And if you're nice about it, they might even still let you on the plane. Sorry. So we answered half of David's question, right? We answered what dongle he would need to bring to connect his computer to other things. But there's the other part of it, which is how to charge your devices, which we haven't gotten to yet, other than hopefully finding things and maybe a battery. Again, I will go back to Anker. They just came out with a new line of stuff. I haven't gotten to test any of this yet. They call it their GaNPrime. So this is their iteration on gallium nitrate, nitride. I can't remember which GaN stands for. Doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter to people that have to make it. We're fine here on the show. But they've got some cool devices. And the one that really jumped out at me is for a charger, the Anker 727 charging station. It is it's got a cable that plugs into the wall. It has 2 AC outlets on it, 2 USB ports, 2 USB-A ports, I should say, 2 USB-C ports, and it's powered by GaNPrime. So you can plug many things into this. I don't want to say you can plug everything into it, but you can plug many things into this, and it's super flat. So it looks like it would travel very, very well. And the AC outlets are 3-prong outlets for US stuff. So, and it's 100 watts total. So this seems like the right thing to get next, and I'm eager to check it out. But something like that has the ability to charge multiple things, and I really think 2 USB-C and 2 USB-A are the key, and this thing's got both of those. Mm-hmm. And that way, it for a while I was fine traveling with just one USB-C, and that was for my laptop, and then I upgraded my iPad, and it was like, wait, I need power delivery for this too. So 2 A's, 2 C's, you got your phone, your watch on the A's, your iPad and your laptop on the C's, and boom, you're good to go. So I like it's clearly some thought went into this, and I'm stoked about that. So hopefully between all of that, David and everyone else are good to travel. Yeah? Cool. Anything else on this one before we move on to Patrick and the international travel tips that he's got to share? I know. It's exciting. He says, I recently traveled to Europe and went to Germany, Switzerland, and the UK, and I learned a few things. The first tip is to actually get some cash in the local currency. I agree with him on this. When we were in Greece, we found we needed cash too. He says, I was surprised that I needed cash since I seldom use it here in the US. It was even more difficult since Germany is on the euro, Switzerland is on the Swiss franc, and the UK is back to the British pound. Also, Germany is very much a cash-centric culture still. Interesting. He also found this Unidapt universal multi-charger. This thing, John, looks like it's going to have everything he needs and everything any of us needs. He says it has fangs for all the international plugs you encounter. So you slide the plug out that you need and it plugs into the wall. It has 3 USB-A, 1 USB-C, actually 2 USB-C, 1 sort of low power and 1 high power USB-C port. So 3 USB-A, 2 USB-C, one of which is power delivery. I can charge my Apple Watch, my iPhone, my Bose noise canceling earphones. Say that 10 times fast. And my 16-inch M1 MacBook Pro all at once with a single device. He says, I think it charges the laptop a little more slowly, but the battery's so good in that computer, I don't really care. It's a 61 watt device. So depending on what else you're charging, it's going to jump around. And that thing's only $36. So if you've got some international travel coming up, this seems like the thing to have. So thank you for that, Patrick. Very, very cool. He has a few more tips. He says, if you're renting a car, bring your iPhone car holder that typically sticks into the vents that you use day to day. I was in a foreign land trying to navigate with an iPhone in hand, and it wasn't pretty. This is killer advice. I still keep, I use CarPlay in my car, so I don't need the vent mount anymore. And my vent mount now lives in my travel backpack. I don't even put it in my charging bag that might be in my suitcase. It's in my backpack. So when I get to a rental car, it's just right there. I can grab it and put it on. Thankfully, most rental cars, at least in the US, have CarPlay as well these days. So you're kind of fine. But if it's not, you've got that little adapter. I love this. He says, lastly, check the data speeds on your plan. I have T-Mobile, so my plan works internationally and was just fine while in Europe, with one big exception. Apple and Google Maps would not load quickly enough to be useful, and I had to upgrade my international plan to a faster speed. It would have been fine for texting, etc., but not for driving. Wow, that's interesting and good to know. Yeah. Thanks for that, Patrick. Cool stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I should get one of those mounts because right now I have a suction mount to the windshield. And it happened again. So as I was driving to the airport, all of a sudden I get the notification on the phone saying, yeah, I'm too hot.
Yeah. Right, because you were driving to the airport during that heat wave we were having here in New England. Mm-hmm. So the sun was probably baking on you. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the interior of my car is dark, so of course that absorbs the heat.
Yeah. Yeah, putting it on the vent mount, you've got AC blowing right on your phone. It's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way I was able to solve it is, number one, remove the case because it acts as an insulator. And number two, don't charge because charging the phone generates heat as well. And once I did those two things, it it was fine.
Smart solution. Oh, I like taking it off charge. That's, yeah. Huh. Really, just anything in the sun. I found I had a gig a couple of weeks ago, and I use an iPad on stage, sometimes as a cheat sheet, because sometimes I need those, and other times just to control the mixer so I can adjust my in-ear monitor mix. And we got on stage. It was a hot day. Everything's set up. I sat down halfway through the first song. I looked down at my iPad, and it's like, yep, I am too hot. And so I'm not going to be available for your use. And so it wasn't in the shade. So I moved it into the shade, and within about, 5 minutes, it was fine again. It had cooled off, and I could control my ears, or I think that's all I needed to do. I don't think it was for a cheat sheet for the first few songs. Thank goodness. So yeah, it's stuff.
Now, is there a case on that iPad?
There is actually what I did to solve the problem was cover the iPad. So I left the case on and I covered the front of it to keep it from baking in the sun, and that actually helped. Believe it or not, that helped. So, but yeah, your idea of taking the case off, that depending on the type of case you have, that makes sense. I like it. It's good. Shall we move on? We've got some follow-ups from prior shows, my friend.
Excellent.
Sweet. Listener Alex brings us back to last episode, and he says, I was listening about your quick tips about the useful shortcuts like command backtick to roll through windows of an app. And again, backtick, because we got a lot of questions about this, is on most Apple keyboards, the key in the upper left below the tilde on some keyboards, but it's an apostrophe going in the wrong direction. That's why I call it a backtick. I don't know. But anyway, he says command backtick to roll through the windows of an app, or command left and right arrow to move through spaces or virtual desktops. That pitch continued such shortcuts thread from previous episode, and I again agreed that keyboard shortcuts are very convenient. But the following speech from Pete about that feeling when you were standing over someone's shoulder, watching the person struggle with something on a computer and feel stressed yourself, described right what I was feeling at that moment. I absolutely do not want to steal such a useful topic. No. He's got a good tip. He says, I encourage the audience to go to System Preferences, Keyboard, Shortcuts, and take a look for which actions virtual shortcuts exist. This is a great thing. If you want to learn more keyboard shortcuts, Apple will show many, not all, many of them to you there. And that way you can see which ones you might like, and you don't have to wait for somebody to tell you about them. It says, for example, Alex continues, for him, such are the show all windows of the current application, show all windows via mission control, and open screenshots creating panel. And you can actually see what the shortcuts are for those and even change them if you want. So pretty good. I like this. That's good. He has anything to add on that before? He has a cool thing to tell us about too, about adding perhaps more complex keyboard shortcuts. He says, if the list of keyboard shortcuts offered in System Preferences does not include some feature, but the feature is provided in some of the menu bar sections while you are in the desired app, you could add it manually to the shortcuts list by a plus button in System Preferences. He's totally right about this. He says, but what if you want to have a keyboard combination for a more unique feature? Of course, you could use Keyboard Maestro, but there is an option to have the feature for free in an Apple app. And this is where he blew my mind. He says, you could easily create an action set in Shortcuts and bind it to a key combination. For example, a command to resize the window to fit the entire screen. Definitely this requires some efforts, but isn't it fun to have a geeky task? And he said, yeah, you find all the windows where the window index is 0, so that's the current window, and resize to fit screen. So 2 shortcut actions, and boom, now you have a shortcut that will resize a window with a keyboard command because you bind it to a keyboard command and you're good to go. I love this idea of using shortcuts to create new keyboards, keyboard shortcuts, I guess is the right word. Yeah. I I never thought about binding a shortcut to a keystroke. And it's because shortcuts came from iOS, where that's simply not an option. But on the Mac, you absolutely can launch a shortcut with a keyboard command. Very interesting. I like it, Alex. That's cool. Huh.
Yeah, I remember we helped someone in the past. So another cool, I think the challenge was, how can I restart or shut down my Mac with the keyboard combination? And the thing is, out of the box, that's not an option.
Right.
But if you make a shortcut, and what I did in my case was I assigned a function key, so I won't hit it accidentally.
That's smart. I like it. That's really smart. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Adding a key that requires two hands, even, to make sure you're not accidentally doing it. I like this idea. Really smart, man. Cool. All right. You want to take us to Case with a follow-up from last week's episode?
Yes. So Case said, I was checking some settings for my mouse and I saw this accessibility option that might solve the issue you mentioned in the last episode. I think the issue was I don't want to accidentally move the cursor around.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, fair.
But I guess it only works if you have a mouse connected. The option is ignore built-in trackpad when mouse or wireless trackpad is present. Actually, it's in, so system preferences, accessibility, pointer control is where you look.
Fascinating. All right, that makes sense. Yeah. Of course, that does render your trackpad useless on your laptop if you do plug in a mouse. But yeah, that might solve this problem. Yeah. I love that Apple uses accessibility to hide these. I mean, I suppose it could be argued that this would be a feature that fits into the accessibility world, but by and large, I think it's kind of, it spills well beyond that. Let's say it that way. So, yeah. All right. Nice find, Case. Yeah. Good stuff. Bob brings us back 2 episodes. He says, we were talking, Pete shared a story about his mother-in-law, whose Apple Watch helped alert Pete's wife that she had fallen and needed help. And Pete needed to get there to open the door for the EMTs. Well, he says, an easy way to allow remote access is via your garage doors. They already have the ability to open via remote. Pete just needs a way to allow that to happen over the internet. MyQ from the Chamberlain LiftMaster door opening company makes a Wi-Fi connected internet accessible garage door opener that can be activated from the phone. It's the MyQ Smart Garage Hub. And when I got Bob's email, I remembered, John, wait a minute. I have one of these in a box and I've been waiting to set it up. I'm going to do it. 10 minutes later, I was good to go. And this thing, it's less than $100. I think it's a lot less than $100. I think I'm going to look on Amazon now. Yeah, it's $47.95 today on Amazon for the MyQ Smart Garage Hub. All it does is becomes another garage door opener. So you teach it how to open your, and it seems to work with most brands. I don't have a Chamberlain garage door opener that I connected it to. It also has a little sensor that you put on the garage door itself. You just stick it to the door, and that will let it know whether the door is open or closed, which is kind of cool. So you get this full functionality for $50, and it's Wi-Fi enabled. By itself, it is not HomeKit compatible, but Chamberlain also sells the MyQ Home Bridge that will make this HomeKit compatible. Or if you run and MyQ's Home Bridge has a space in there, so it's the MyQ space Home space Bridge. If you run the software Home Bridge or Hoobs, well, then you can just do it that way because there is a MyQ plugin for Home Bridge, and you can boom. So now I've got my garage doors. I already had one garage door that was connected to HomeKit via a different method, and now I've got 2. And it's great. And you can control this from over the internet with the MyQ app, so you don't even need to go the HomeKit route. And yeah, it's great. It's very, very good tip there, Bob. I like it. Because then Pete could open the door for the EMTs from his phone. So That's pretty cool. Pretty good. Any thoughts or tips to add to that one, John?
Well, I could mention that I have a smart AC control, and before I got home, I turned on the AC so it wouldn't be as stiflingly hot.
And that's smart. So this is a third party control for like a window unit air conditioner, right?
Yeah, I think it's Atomi makes it. But yeah, and it's it just reminded me it's similar to what you mentioned, is that you train it.
Yeah.
Because there are only so many, or you tell it, I guess in the app you can say, oh, I have a Fetters or whatever brand.
Whatever, yeah,
and
right.
then it'll try different ones until the AC wakes up.
I like it. Huh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the Atomi air conditioner control. Hang on, I'm looking on Amazon here. Oh, it's like $20. Oh, dude, that's a great idea. I love it. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Here was the bad news, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Because I didn't leave the heat on. I just left the house sit there unair conditioned. And
Right.
it got up to like 80-something degrees, which I was able to tell with my smart thermostats. But one of my thermostats disappeared.
Oh.
In that I couldn't talk to it. And when I got home, the first thing that I did is like, okay, what's going on here? And I looked at it, and the screen's dark.
Oh, dead battery.
No.
Oh.
Apparently, this model, which is battery operated, it doesn't run off a wire. Apparently, it got so warm that the batteries had shifted, and yeah, it got up to like 86 degrees with no AC. So apparently, the batteries shifted a little bit. You know, I took the cover off, fiddled with them, and it came back and has the same battery level as the other two in the house.
Wow. So you could set, like here in the office, I set my air conditioners. I have mini splits in the office, and they have remote controls. And I can set it when I'm not here to keep the temp at 80 or below. So if I'm away, like during a massive heat wave or whatever, my devices don't just cook. Because like you, I run a bunch of electronics in my house, even when I'm not here, like my disk station and my computers, and getting much above 80 degrees is probably asking a lot of these devices. So I have mine set to kick on when it's 80 and just bring it down to 80 and that's it. Can you do that with the Atomi thing, or is it just like, can you set a temperature at which it should kick on?
It's dumb in that it doesn't know the temperature, but it does have up and down controls. So if you know what you last set it at, then you can fiddle with it further. I set mine to 70 degrees, and that seems to work.
No, I mean, does the Atomi know the ambient temperature, not the temp your AC is set to?
Yeah. So it lists that. It's not terribly accurate, but
yeah, but still, if you set it, like if you, is there a way to automate it so that if, say, the temp hits 82 degrees, you could have this thing kick your AC on and bring it down and then turn the AC off when it's back below 82?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So that might not be a bad idea to keep your batteries from boiling the next time you go away.
Yeah, my disappointment, though, is that I have an action for all my thermostats saying if the battery gets below a certain level, send me a note, and it didn't.
All right. Well, but maybe it doesn't sound like the battery got low. It just sounds like it swelled and moved.
Yeah, it just moved a little bit.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Well, you want to take us to listener John?
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm having trouble reformatting an external drive I once used as a CCC backup. I no longer have CCC, or do you, on this machine, but this error comes up every time I try to erase the drive. Any idea how to fix this?
By CCC, you mean carbon copy cloner?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he sent us a screenshot from Disk Utility. And sure enough, it says erasing Mac clone, preparing to erase the drive, checking mount state. But here's the important part. Farther down, The volume Mac clone on disk whatever couldn't be unmounted because it is in use by process 328, otherwise known as com.bombic.ccc helper. So guess what? CCC isn't gone.
No, it doesn't sound like it is.
Yeah, so one thing in the future, you may want to consider using something like App Cleaner, which will get rid of all the little bits and pieces, like this helper app. So to deal with this, I think what needs to happen is you have to get rid of this com.bombitch.ccc helper. One way would be to go to System Preferences, Security and Privacy, Full Disk Access, which is where this guy lives, and disable the entry for com.bombitch.ccc helper, though I don't know if that's going to quite do it. But here's the good news. If you click on an entry on that screen, it will say Show in Finder. And if you say Show in Finder, it's going to highlight that app in the Finder for you. I'm not sure if you can delete it straight away from where it lives, because it's kind of a low-level component.
Okay. Yeah. App Cleaner might get rid of it though. Like
but if he doesn't have CCC anymore, then I don't know.
Oh, well, one solution would be to reinstall Carbon Copy Cloner and then use App Cleaner to remove it. Well, right? Like that would be, yeah. Or like, I think Clean My Mac will look for things that are left over from previously uninstalled. Like I think so. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good point. If the app's not there, then you can't trigger the uninstallation process. I believe it's Brian Monroe who put a link in the show notes here for uninstalling Carbon Copy Cloner. And Carbon Copy Cloner has its own uninstaller right in its menu. Or you can manually remove the files and it lists where they all are. So this would be another, and it also talks about how to manually disable the privileged helper tool that you're talking about. So we've got a link in the show notes that maybe you can share back with listener John, and that way the answer is there. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Brian Monroe. This is what I love about doing the show live. There's some things that get a little crazy doing the show live, but it's good. John, we've been doing some trades with some other podcasts, and I would love to talk about the one we're doing this week, if that works for you, my friend.
Okay.
All right. Hey, look, every Friday and Sunday, Slate's popular daily news podcast, What Next, brings you What Next TBD, a clear-eyed look at technology, power, and the future. From fake news to fake meat, algorithms to augmented reality, host Lizzie O'Leary is your guide to the rapid technological changes reshaping our world. And those changes aren't always visible, and they aren't always what they appear to be. That's where TBD comes in. Lizzie and her guests help listeners parse out what matters, what doesn't, and what's next. Subscribe to What Next TBD in your favorite podcast app. And thanks to Lizzie for doing this swap with us. All right, John. I noticed this week when I ran the Ring Rapid Ring app. So I use, for my smart home stuff, I use a bunch of Ring things. I have a couple of Ring. I have one Ring doorbell in one spot, and then I have two Ring like security light / camera things. And I always would use the Rapid Ring app, which was made by the Ring people, to see things and get my notifications if there was somebody in the driveway or whatever, because as the name implied, you would launch the app and it would immediately show you what was happening live. You didn't have to jump through hoops like you would if you ran the sort of more bloated Ring app. Well, the Ring folks have done away with the Rapid Ring app because they've made the Ring app more efficient. So when you tap on those notifications, it brings you right there. You don't have to jump through all the hoops that you used to have to. So if you're still using the Rapid Ring app, delete it and then go into the Ring app and turn your notifications back on from there so that you're getting those notifications and all of that good stuff. So I just figured I'd share that on the show. I also wanted to do you still use your Ring stuff, right, John? You have some Ring devices, don't you? Oh, I thought didn't you have a Ring doorbell for a little while?
I still have one, but I replaced it with the Eufy, and I like.
That's right. Yeah.
And at least at that point in time, Ring's detection algorithm was a bit too jumpy, and I would get all these false positives. Eufy's, I found, though this may have changed. Maybe I'll give it another try someday. But yeah, Eufy's algorithm for defining the area where you want a notification at that point was much better. So
nice. Yeah, we moved the primary doorbell from a Ring to a Eufy for a variety of reasons. One was the size of it. The Ring one was too wide to fit with the new door that we got. But I do tend to like the Eufy doorbell better. I have the Ring doorbell, like I said, in kind of an alternate location now. But yeah, I still use their floodlights. And we put in a patio with a hot tub, and I had to change the Ring, the floodlights notification area for when it turns its light on to not include the area where the hot tub is, because I go out there at night often, and I don't like when it turns the light on in our eyes when we're just hanging out in the hot tub enjoying the stars. So now I have it that way, and I can turn the light on with my voice if I so care. It's bizarre though. This is weird. And maybe somebody out there can help me with this, because Ring is now an Amazon owned product line, right? Why is it that if I say to the A lady, turn on back porch light, it says I can't turn on the light from, via voice, but I can show you the camera, which is impossible because the device that I'm talking to doesn't have a screen. So I'm super confused every time this happens. But my Homebridge Ring plugin, if I tell Siri turn on back porch light, it turns it on. It's totally fine. So why can't Amazon's Ring integration with the A lady do that? This doesn't make sense to me. And it's been this way they've had the Ring brand. They acquired it like over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. It baffles me that the integration, I have to use like this Homebridge cooked up, hacked together thing. I mean, it works very well, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It seems a little weird to me. So anyway, if somebody knows how to make the A lady do that, I would like it, because A lady is in my Sonos Move speaker, and I often don't have my phone out there with me. So I would love to be able to do it with the A lady. Maybe I need to hook the A lady to Homebridge. Maybe that's the solution. Well, I don't know.
Now, my only caution to you about excluding the hot tub is you will not get a notification if any of the wildlife, like a bear. I think I've seen a video of a bear going into someone's hot tub.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't need to know that. That's going to be fine. If I'll look out the door, and if I see a bear in the hot tub, I'll stay inside. It's going to be fine. Yeah. South by Southwest changed the name of the South by Southwest Film Festival for 2023. It is now the South by Southwest Film and TV Festival, which I think is great, because there's so much stuff. Like the lines are super blurred between film and TV now. We get these, 4-episode series. And is that a film that's just spread out across 4 things? There was last year at South by, there was the movie about, why can't I think of their name? Demi Lovato. That when I saw it at South by, it was I watched it in one fell swoop. When it came out on Amazon, I believe it was Amazon Prime, it was a 6-part series, which was a better way to watch it, because it was like super heavy. It was about her dealing with addiction and finding herself in a whole lot of different ways. And it was a lot to consume all at once, but breaking it up made a lot of sense. So this whole idea of, the TV and film festival helps. It's nomenclature. It's good. I like it.
Though I question the use of the term film because I don't think anybody uses film anymore.
That's a good question. Let's look at no. I'm a stickler for language. I like what you're saying here. So I am looking at dictionary.com at the definition of film, and it's interesting. There are two nouns. Oh wait, there's more nouns. Right. Movies. So in the movies definition, there is a strip of transparent material, usually cellulose, a similar strip covered. So yes, these physical things that maybe we're using, maybe we're not. And then simply film refers to a movie or a motion picture. So we are okay using the term film for movies. So at least there's that.
Yeah. From what I understand, though, is that most theaters have digital projectors. I think they actually send them a disc pack.
That's. I think you're right. Yeah, but a film is a movie, so it's not just the thing. So we're okay. The language has evolved. We're there. It's all good. And language should evolve. Although I still am not entirely happy that the word literally has evolved to, and the net effect is we no longer have a word that means literally anymore. And that's tough. Another pet peeve while we're here, because it seems to be one of those days, is when someone qualifies the term unique. That is binary, right? Unique is unique. It doesn't need to be very unique. There's no such thing. It doesn't need to be mostly unique. There's no qualifier required. It's unique or it is not unique. There it is.
I've got a related one.
Go ahead.
So I'll get solicitations via email from people where it's okay if you email me. And it always cracks me up when I get exclusive offer just for John. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not just for me.
It's probably, I don't know, John, you're a pretty special person. It might just be for you. Who knows? All right. We got, there's time for one last thing here, which I'm going to try and find for us. Where the heck is this? Let's go. Come on. Adrian brings us to this ever-evolving Google Sheet, which lists app compatibility for the iOS 16 beta. As more and more people are starting to run the beta, this becomes more and more relevant. And then also, as we're getting closer, we're probably, 6, maybe 7 weeks away from iOS 16 being in release mode. I think it's probably time for me to put it on my phone. So, yeah, there you go. So we'll put a link in the show notes to that. But handy little compatibility list, which lists whether it is compatible or not, or somewhere in the middle. So thanks for that, Adrian. Good stuff. You got anything else? Any other cool stuff found to mention, John, before we let the band take over here?
Nope.
I think it's time. We made it through the show. I hope whatever I have doesn't get any crazier than this. Fog mode. Scratchy throat. Headache.
Take your vitamins.
Yeah, I've been taking Tylenol. That was like, I took some of that. And that, I'm still fuzzy, I have that fuzzy feeling, but instead of fuzzy with a headache and pissed, I'm like fuzzy and I actually kind of feel a little high is all it is, so that's fine, I guess. I mean, it get annoying after a while, but, better than the alternative of the headache. No fever, though, so who knows. All right, well, that's all we got.
Tylenol?
I am sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's like the fuzziness is not related to the Tylenol. That's just related to whatever I have. But when you take the headache away, then it's actually kind of nice for a little while, But yes, I'm sure it was Tylenol. Extra strength kind. 2 of them even. I know, and I'm only supposed to take it, there's a maximum I can take every day because otherwise it starts causing stomach problems. I'm aware. I'm actually not a huge fan of taking anything, but when you have a podcast to do and you don't want to have a splitting headache through the show, treating the symptom is all right for the short term. Pilot Pete wasn't here today, but You can go check out his podcast, So There I Was. That's his new aviation podcast. And we got him up on Apple Music this week. Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, whatever we're supposed to call it. But yes, you can find it in Apple Podcasts and all of your favorite podcatchers. So you don't have to go to sothereiwas.us and subscribe, but you could, or you can just subscribe. So yeah, he's got like, I think, 10 episodes out now. So yeah, it's good stuff. I love the show. Have you listened yet, John?
No.
Oh, I highly recommend it. I think you'd like it. I mean, like that whole, we did a great segment in post show last week where you were asking Pete about how do you start the engines on an airplane? It's fascinating. Basically like jump starting a car. I think we sent that clip out to our premium listeners too. So if you're not a premium listener yet, MacGeekGab.com/premium. That's where you can go if you want to help support the show directly. And you get access to our special email address, premium@MacGeekGab.com. Yeah, we'd love to have you there if you are not already there and you want to be. You don't have to be there. But if you'd like to be there, MacGeekGab.com/premium. There you go. All right, folks. Do you have anything else to share, John, or is it time to go?
It's time to wrap it up.
Time to wrap. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to CashFly for providing all the bandwidth. Check out our sponsors and our deals at MacGeekGab.com/sponsors. And come join our Discord chat. Someday John will be there. MacGeekGab.com/Discord. We're having fun there. Mr. Braun, what do you have to say for yourself? Or for them?
All I got to say is I'm glad during my travels far and wide that I didn't get caught.
Made up.